Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Terrence Crawford fans about to have a heart attack. Now, we've all been talking about Canelo, Crawford, who's going to win, who does this, who does that, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of both fighters. But the one thing that we all agreed on is that Canelo just hasn't shown the kind of foot speed that he would need to go on and catch up to Terrence Crawford and land them Guadalajaran bing-bings on him. But now, what I'm learning is Canelo is having a foot speed evolution. And he is preparing and will be more than prepared for Terrence Crawford's elusiveness. This right here changes the game. If Canelo can evolve his foot speed, Terrence Crawford is doomed. He's doomed. Because now this whole idea of Terrence Crawford fighting perfect for the whole 36 minutes, that shit goes out the window. That means Canelo going to catch up to him, and he's going to put that pressure on him, cut the ring off, touch him up, and break him down. Canelo has a three-part strategy. Beat up your arms, beat up your body. Beats up your arms, the guard drops. You can't throw punches, your head's exposed. Beat up your body, your legs go out, you can't move around anymore. Now he has a stationary target. Hands are down, you can't move. Canelo will take your head off. With those fast feet that he's working on achieving to have, well, he's going to be able to explode and decapitate Terrence Crawford. So we know Canelo's always been known, being just a strong guy. Body attack, foot speed, not so much. But this is where the critics have drawn the line. And I'm going to tell you, man, historically, when you watch Canelo, he's not a guy who gets up on his toes and are trying to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. We already have covered, multiple ways on how Canelo has sit there, man, and against slick boxers has struggled. Cutting the ring off is something that he just was able to do, but it wasn't that effective because those guys were able to just, get away from him. And Canelo wasn't really able to impose his rhythm. Now, the problem now is, Terrence Crawford. We all know at Crawford, it's all about getting in position to hit you and where you can't hit him. Doing little subtle things that get you to react. I call it the fishing expedition. Throw some bait out there, you go for it, and bam, he sets the hook, and his hook is not just a fishing hook, it's a left hook, right hook, uppercut, backhand right, jab, whatever it is he decides to throw, that's his hook. And Canelo is out here reportedly working on overhauling how he approached foot speed because he felt really in past fights he needed foot speed, but not the kind of foot speed he's going to need when he gets in the ring with Terrence Crawford. So this isn't just about speed. It's about, for Canelo, his efficiency, timing, and he wants to be the guy in the ring, not Terrence Crawford. He doesn't want to deal with what he dealt with Mayweather. He doesn't want to deal with what he dealt with Bivol, with Austin Trout, with Erislandy Lara. He's like, nah, I'm going to be the one as far as showing the judges spatial dominance. You see, Crawford doesn't just move. Canelo knows. Crawford manipulates space. Canelo wants to be the one to manipulate the space. As a result, now Crawford has to move more than what he wants to. If you could see Canelo come out here now and force a guy like Crawford to overcommit and then counter him with the accuracy that we're used to seeing Terrence Crawford do, it's all downhill for Crawford. So the conversation really is, even with that foot speed, can Canelo trap Crawford? And if he can't trap him, and he can't hurt him, what happens? Because if he can't hurt him, he can't win. is how most people would see it. Now, as far as training camp, there's so many different things that are being reported on Canelo. But inside his camp, I do know this for a fact. The emphasis has definitely shifted. Now, there have been recent reports and footage from the Zone's On the Ground series with Canelo. Now, what I'm giving you all a fact, okay? Canelo is drilling explosive lateral steps to close distance without telegraphing. You know when they say when you get hit with a punch you don't see how much that hurts? How about being in a ring with a guy who's a pressure fighter who cuts the ring off to where all of a sudden now he's closing the distance and you don't realize it till it's too late and he explodes and he takes your head off your shoulders. That's great news to hear, because that just means if Crawford is able to beat Canelo, then Crawford is that special, because he's not leaving no stone unturned. He knows that he's the favorite, but he's not approaching the fight like he's the favorite. Canelo's approaching the fight like he's the underdog. And that creates serious problems, that it should create serious concerns for Terence Crawford and his team. When you see Canelo with resistance bands and weighted vests, he is trying to build additional lower body explosiveness. He is going to be a nightmare in that ring for Crawford, because you know Canelo is going to achieve all of his goals as far as his workouts and the things he's trying to evolve. He will achieve those goals. Now, this whole thing about who Canelo's sparring with, I do know he has a Cuban in there, I believe, who's a badass. But I do also know he's sparring with smaller, faster fighters, because Canelo wants to be conditioned with dealing with unpredictability, because he knows when he gets in that ring with Crawford, it's important during his training camp he has guys who can simulate as close as possible Crawford's rhythm from both stances. So sparring with the smaller and faster fighters is one of the training camp focuses. And the other one that was brought to light is Canelo has been working diligently practicing ring cutting drills that emphasize timing over raw speed. Canelo is going to be the guy stepping at angles. Canelo is going to be the guy feinting to bait movement, the fishing expedition that I talked about that Crawford normally does. And Canelo is going to be the guy looking to trap Terence Crawford against the ropes and put the Guadalajara and Jalisco bing bings on him. So understand, he's not trying to become faster than Terence Crawford. It's about being smarter with foot placement. Canelo's team, they know that Canelo won't win no damn track meet with Crawford. They see Crawford running around catching footballs and hitting tennis balls and shooting basketballs. They know Crawford is the definition of athleticism. But if Canelo can anticipate Crawford, his exits, and find those exit routes, and he can intercept them, oh shit, that means he done turned that ring into a cage, and Crawford gonna be in the ring with a Mexican lion. And it's gonna be all bad. You see, you gotta understand the psychology of ring cutting, you know what I'm saying? Canelo is probably, if not the best, one of the best fighters today who can cut a ring off. And cutting a ring isn't just physical, it's psychological warfare. That shit is mental. It's about making your opponent feel, everybody says trap, right? How about this? Trap's not a good enough word. Claustrophobic. Anybody, like I remember going in for MRIs, and they put you in the MRI head first, and you're in, it's like it's tube, man, when I was having whole body MRIs done. That shit is horrible feeling. That is where you feel claustrophobic, being in those tight spaces. and they had a button. You're like, yo, press this button if you need us to take you out. But once they start the MRI imaging, you can't come out. So Crawford, in a sense, inside that ring, if he starts feeling trapped or feeling claustrophobic, it's like he's going to be inside the MRI device where they put your whole body in there, and he ain't going to be able to push a button to say, hey, I feel uncomfortable, get me out. Nah, he's got to sit in there and allow it to go, to run its course and allow the process to play out. And that just means Terrence Crawford is going to be in trouble. He ain't going to be able to react the way he wants to. So Canelo's goal isn't to just, run around the ring and chase Crawford. Nah, it's to make him feel like there's nowhere left to run. And this shit requires discipline. If there's one fighter out here who got the discipline to do it, it's Canelo. Canelo knows he can't lunge. He's done. He can start free swinging and shit he was doing against Jermell Charlo. He overextends, Crawford will make him pay. But if he can effectively apply that pressure with that, especially using those fast feet, Crawford could be the one overextending, start to feel anxious. Even though Crawford stays calm in the ring, he's never been in there with a guy like Canelo. So Canelo, he must stalk him, not sprint, just stalk him. Every step's got to be calculated, every angle, everything got to be with the purpose, man. You saw when he fought Bivol, we all talk about Bivol put the bing-bings on Canelo, but Canelo was chasing him. But when he gets in there with Terrence Crawford, Omaha's finest, he's got to hunt him. He's got to hunt him. And one thing about Crawford, if Crawford is moving and Canelo's effectively cutting the ring, Crawford's not going to be sitting there trying to punch on the move. Crawford's not Keith Thurman. Crawford's not Lomachenko. He ain't Usyk. I'm not saying that those guys are better than him. I'm just saying when it comes to that, being able to punch off of the lateral moves and pivots and exploding. Crawford can do it, but that's not something that he's known for, like Usyk, Lomachenko, and Keith Thurman. But speaking of movement, that for Crawford, to me, that's the ultimate puzzle. Because, see, like I said, Crawford's not just a guy you've seen just run around the ring, just moving to move. When Crawford is moving, he's getting his feet in position to either trap you, counter you, or to make sure he's always in position to capitalize on your mistakes and fire. So he moves with intent. And while he's throwing combinations, he's also switching stances, pivots off the center line, and uses subtle shifts to reset rhythm. So what do you do with a guy who's not just elusive, but he's disruptive? So when it comes back to Canelo, to beat him, there's a few things Canelo's got to do. And with those fast feet, he's going to be able to do it. You're going to see Canelo more than likely, with that enhanced speed, control the center of the ring early. You're going to see him force Crawford to circle towards Canelo's power hand. You're going to see a foot fight taking place in there. His feet are going to be just as fast as Crawford's, just as intelligent as Crawford's. And he's also going to be in here like Crawford, using feints. And if he's having success cutting the ring off and controlling the center of the ring, his feints could freeze Crawford's feet. And then Canelo's going to start exploding with body shots. And as far as those escape routes, look, don't even worry about Canelo trying to go to Crawford's head. He's going to cut off them escape routes and bang that body. He ain't just looking for the head. The headshots will come. But in order to do that, it's going to require elite footwork, coordination, timing, and patience, because he's fighting Crawford. It's not about just speed. It's about anticipation. How do you anticipate what Crawford's going to do? Because you're doing what? It's chess in there. You move this, he moves that. You do this, he does that. Then all of a sudden, he just does nothing. It's just brilliance watching Crawford fight. When Crawford fought Madrimov, that shit was high-speed chess. If you've never boxed before and been in a ring before, you couldn't appreciate what the hell was going on. That shit was high-speed chess. And of course, everybody's looking for a mash-up, crash-up when Canelo and Crawford get in the ring. But don't for a second think Canelo doesn't have that IQ. Canelo could turn this shit into high-speed chess. And he knows even if he doesn't want to, he could be drawn into that. That's why he's making sure. He's going to be fast enough with his hands, with his feet, with his defense, everything, to make it a very easy chess match for him to go on and knock Terence Crawford out. So when we talk about comparative breakdowns, right? Foot speed, for Canelo, it's always been moderate. Crawford's always been elite. Ring cutting ability, Canelo Alvarez has always been great, but he's improving it. For Terence Crawford, I think ring cutting ability, I think it's masterful. I think there's some evasiveness there. Crawford's ability to cut the ring off is very, very good, but it seems so seamless. As far as stance switching, you don't really see Canelo doing that shit. Crawford's always doing it. As far as angle creations, Canelo does it, but it's power-based. He's using the angle to land one or two very hard shots and get you out of there. Crawford's using that angle creation, man, to be very precise with his shots and just keep dismantling you. And as far as the pressure application from Canelo trying to physically break you down physically. Just break you down. But Crawford is more of a psychological advantage he's trying to gain by the pressure application. So you see, when you look at this, and we really reflect on what we've discussed here, Canelo's footwork is built for pressure. And that's why he needs fast feet, to keep the pressure on Crawford. Because Crawford is built for control. So the clash, I feel it ends up boiling down to a battle of space. And who is going to own it? Who is going to manipulate it? And then who's gonna ensure they don't lose it? That's what I want to say. You take a look at all this. Canelo's camp is out here watching Crawford's pattern, when and how he exits, when and how he pivots, what triggers his resets. They're making sure that they're going to be positioning their feet to intercept and not chase Crawford. But they know they got to move fast. They're out here deciding the time to step in when Crawford commits to a certain direction. Because every fighter makes mistakes. And then they're just looking to act and explode with corner traps and hard body shots. And let me tell you something, this whole thing can happen in milliseconds. If Canelo hesitates, Crawford is going to escape. But if Canelo overcommits, Crawford counters. But if Crawford doesn't escape, Canelo gonna land hard to the body and start breaking him down. And if Crawford starts to become anxious and he starts overcommitting, Canelo is going to counter and bang him out. So when you want to think about this, right, since everybody likes to gamble, foot speed versus ring IQ, let me tell you something. I think Canelo's foot speed, aside from the judges, I think that shit could be the X factor here. If he's improved enough to trap Crawford, I am telling you the body shots will land. And the fight is going to definitely tilt in his favor. We'll know the first 4 rounds what direction this fight's going. But if not, I think Crawford's going to dance, jab, and just try to counter and box his way to a decision. So again, I just did a video about, logic and feeling. Logic says Canelo has the power, experience, and pressure to break Crawford down. With the additional foot speed, he should be able to make that happen even easier. But then the feeling says Crawford's movement and timing it doesn't matter what Canelo's going to do, is going to neutralize everything. So the truth about this whole thing is I just think it depends on Canelo's feet. You know what I'm saying? I just really think it depends on his feet, and I think his team knows that. And I do think whatever milestones they set in training camp as far as Canelo and his foot speed, I think they're going to achieve it. So my final thought, and the final question really is, can he even catch Crawford? And I'm going to say it again. this fight's not just going to be one on punches and exchanging fists, exchanging blows. I think it'll be one with the feet. I really do. Crawford being able to move around the whole 12 rounds, land shots, maybe eight or nine rounds. If he's having immense success, maybe he stops Canelo. But for Canelo being able to keep up with Crawford, maybe even possibly get ahead of him with his foot speed and cut the ring off and land big shots, break him down, and by round 6, 7, get Crawford up out of there. All I'm saying, if Canelo's training pays off, and you see him slicing and dicing that ring, this chess match that we know Crawford brings into the ring, that shit's going to turn into a war, and Crawford's going to lose that war. But if Crawford stays a step ahead, you could have Canelo starting to panic, especially around 8, 9, and 10 hit, and he's behind the scorecards. Now Canelo starts free swinging at the shadows and not landing. And that is what Canelo and his team are working on to make sure they don't go that route. Because Canelo is working on foot speed, and I'm just telling you, that man come in that ring, and his feet are moving fast, and he can sustain that. Crawford already has an uphill battle, in my opinion, fighting Canelo. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, how interesting this fight is becoming. Canelo could really blast Crawford up out of there a lot sooner than what people think. I'd say within the first 6 rounds, Crawford could be out of there if Canelo has feet fast enough to catch up to him and touch him. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Become a member to the channel. I'd appreciate it. In the breeze.